First observer stood motionless before the data screen, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he checked the numbers for the 12th time. His pale blue hands trembled as they moved across the control panel. This couldn't be right. The numbers had to be wrong. "Computer, run analysis sequence again," he ordered, his voice catching in his throat. The machine hummed softly, processing the vast amounts of data collected from the small blue planet in System 3942. The results appeared once more, unchanged and undeniable. First observer slumped into his chair, causing it to adjust to his weight automatically. After 300 years of scientific service to the Galactic Council, he had never encountered such a serious error in the planetary classification system. The door to his laboratory slid open with a gentle hiss. "First observer, the Council is waiting for your report on habitable worlds in Sector 7, his assistant called out. "Tell them." First observer paused, gathering his thoughts. "Tell them I found something that changes everything we know about planetary classification." He gathered his data crystals and headed toward the Council chambers. The corridors of the massive space station were filled with beings from 100 different worlds, each adapted to their own particular type of planet. None of them knew that today, their understanding of the galaxy would change forever. The Council chambers fell silent as First Observer took his place at the speaker's podium. The 7 Council members, representing the oldest spacefaring races in the galaxy, watched him with varying degrees of interest. "Honorable Council," he began, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. "3 cycles ago, we began a review of our planetary classification system. As you know, we rank worlds from Class 1, being paradise worlds, to Class 20, being absolutely uninhabitable death worlds." The head counselor nodded. Yes, we are familiar with the basics, First Observer. Please proceed to your findings." "We have discovered a serious error in our records," First Observer continued. "It concerns the planet Earth in System 3942. It was originally classified as a Class 3 habitable world with some environmental challenges." He pressed a button, and a holographic image of Earth appeared above the Council table. "Our recent detailed analysis shows that Earth should be classified as at least Class 15, possibly even Class 16. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. A Class 15 world was considered barely survivable even for the most advanced species. "Impossible," one counselor stated flatly. "No complex life could evolve on such a world. The conditions would be too extreme." First Observer displayed his data. Earth has regular massive storms that can level entire regions. It has areas of extreme heat and cold, often varying by up to 50 degrees in a single day. The gravity is 30% higher than standard. The atmosphere contains corrosive oxygen at levels that would be toxic to most species. There are active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, and regular cosmic radiation exposure. "Then it is a dead world," another counselor concluded. "No," First Observer said quietly. "That's what makes this discovery so incredible. The planet has life. Advanced life. Intelligent life." He brought up images of human cities, human activities, human achievements. The Council chamber grew deathly quiet. "These beings, they call themselves humans," First Observer explained. "They don't just survive on this death world. They thrive on it. They build towers that reach into the sky, knowing earthquakes might knock them down. They live in places where the air freezes, and in places hot enough to cook most species alive. They venture into their oceans, which are filled with enough pressure to crush our strongest submarines." The Council members stared at the images in horror and fascination. "But that's not the most remarkable part," First Observer continued. "According to our long-range observations, they consider their world mild and comfortable. They seek out even more extreme conditions for what they call adventure or sport." He let that sink in before delivering his final revelation. "And now, honorable Council members, I must inform you of one more critical detail." He paused, knowing this would change galactic society forever. They have achieved spaceflight. They are out there now, exploring their solar system, preparing to venture further. And they have no idea that they are, by our standards, superhuman beings evolved on a planet that should not support life at all. The council chamber erupted into chaos as the implications became clear. Somewhere out there, descendants of a death world were reaching for the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council stretched into its fourth day. The revelation about Earth and its inhabitants had thrown the entire galactic community into chaos. Guards had been posted at every entrance to the council chamber, their weapons ready but useless against the growing panic. We cannot simply ignore them, third speaker argued, her crystalline form glittering under the chamber's lights. They are achieving spaceflight. Contact is inevitable. Then we should contain them. Second guardian shouted, his protective environment suit hissing with each agitated movement. The last Class 12 species we encountered nearly destroyed an entire sector before they died out. First observer watched the debate from his small observation pod. The council had kept him close, demanding more and more information about Earth and its inhabitants. His data crystals were nearly worn out from constant replay. The head counselor raised all four of her arms, demanding silence. We must approach this systematically. First observer, display the human space program data again. The holographic display flickered to life, showing primitive but effective human spacecraft. As you can see, first observer explained, they have already established a permanent base on their moon. Their robotic probes have reached the edges of their solar system. Impossible, a voice shouted from the gallery. No species progresses that fast in those conditions. But the evidence was undeniable. Videos showed humans walking on their moon, repairing space stations with their bare hands, and planning missions to their red neighbor planet, all while living on a world that should have killed them millennia ago. We will send an observation team, the head counselor decided finally. No direct contact. We must understand these humans better before we reveal ourselves. Captain Jack Miller stretched in his pilot's seat aboard the mining scout ship Horizon. 6 months of scanning asteroids for rare minerals had left him longing for some excitement. His ship was small but efficient, perfect for solo exploration work in the outer belt. Another day, another rock, he mumbled, checking his instruments. The scanner beeped, showing an unusual reading from a nearby asteroid. Well, that's different. The Horizon's engines hummed as Jack guided it closer to investigate. The reading didn't match any mineral profile in his database. As he rounded the asteroid's dark side, he saw something that made him freeze. A ship, but not human. Definitely not human. Control, this is Horizon, he called over the comm. You're not going to believe what I'm looking at. On board the observation vessel, alarms screamed as their cloaking system failed. First Scout grabbed the controls, trying to restart the damaged stealth field. How did they detect us? Second Scout screamed, her tentacles writhing in panic. Their technology shouldn't be capable of this. They didn't, First Scout replied grimly. Their pilot was searching for minerals and found us by accident. These humans, they venture out here alone in ships barely bigger than escape pods, looking for rocks. The human vessel was approaching slowly, cautiously. Its pilot had broadcast some kind of greeting, but the observation team was too busy arguing about proper protocol to respond. We should flee, Second Scout insisted. Return to the council for new instructions. Too late, First Scout said, pointing at their displays. 3 more human ships had appeared, responding to their fellows' call. They moved with practiced ease through the asteroid field, maneuvering in conditions that would challenge even the most advanced galactic ships. This is Captain Miller of the mining vessel Horizon. A calm voice came through their speakers, automatically translated. If you're having technical problems, we're happy to help. No need to be shy. We've been hoping to meet some neighbors out here. First Scout and Second Scout stared at each other in disbelief. These Deathworld humans had found them by accident, and their first reaction was to offer help, to treat them as neighbors. The council must know about this. First Scout whispered, "They're not just surviving out here in space. They're comfortable. They're exploring. They're treating the void between stars as just another frontier to conquer." Through the viewport, they watched as the human ships took up protective positions around their vessel. Not threatening, but ready to help. These humans, born on a world that should be impossible to inhabit, were about to make first contact. And they were smiling about it. Second speaker adjusted her environmental suit's settings for the third time that hour. Even in the carefully controlled observation post, the mere knowledge of Earth's conditions made her nervous. She turned back to her data pad, continuing her report on human capabilities. Day 47 of human observation, she dictated. "I remain disturbed by their basic biological functions. These humans don't just survive their death world. They actively challenge it." Through the observation screens, she watched a group of humans in what they called a park. One caught her attention. A human moving at high speed along a paved path. Subject is engaging in what they call jogging, she noted. This is their 6th hour of continuous movement. They show no signs of stopping. According to their communication networks, some humans do this for pleasure, calling it a marathon when they run for 42 kilometers without rest. Her assistant, third observer, rushed into the room. "You need to see this," he said, his protective scales rattling with excitement. "We've discovered something about their eating habits." The screen changed to show a human restaurant. Second speaker watched in horror as humans voluntarily consumed bright red substances that their databanks identified as containing capsaicin. "They're poisoning themselves," she gasped. "Why isn't anyone stopping them?" "No," third observer corrected. "They're enjoying it. They call it spicy food." Some humans actively seek increasingly potent versions of these toxins. They have competitions to see who can consume the most dangerous levels. Second speaker's recording appendage trembled as she added to her report. "Humans intentionally consume substances that would be considered chemical weapons on most worlds. They appear to derive pleasure from the experience." The next footage made her environmental suit automatically inject calm-inducing chemicals into her system. A human child had fallen, causing a clear break in its skeletal structure. But instead of dying, as any reasonable species would, the humans simply wrapped the break in a hard shell they called a cast. "Their healing abilities defy explanation," she noted. "Broken bones knit themselves back together. Damaged skin regenerates. They even deliberately damage their muscles through exercise to make them stronger." An alert flashed on her screen. The humans had sent another message to the Galactic Council. After the accidental first contact in the asteroid belt, diplomatic relations had been established, though most species were still too terrified to meet humans in person. "They're inviting us to something called a sports festival," third observer read aloud. "They say it's to promote interspecies understanding." Second speaker reviewed the proposed activities and felt her primary heart stop momentarily. The humans wanted to demonstrate their casual recreational activities. "Ice hockey," she read with growing horror. "They deliberately slide at high speed on frozen water while striking objects at each other." "Wrestling. Ritual combat for entertainment." "Something called rock climbing, where they scale vertical surfaces without anti-gravity aids." "Should we decline?" third observer asked. Second speaker considered the diplomatic implications. "No. The Council wants more data on human capabilities. This might be our best opportunity to understand them." She added a final note to her day's observations. "Humans don't view their extreme abilities as remarkable. When asked about their capacity to endure conditions that would kill most species, they seemed genuinely confused by our concern. To them, pushing their bodies to what we consider impossible limits is simply their normal way of life." Through the view screen, she watched as a human child successfully convinced its parent to provide a frozen sugar milk mixture called ice cream, despite the local temperature being barely above freezing. "We thought their world had made them into monsters," she concluded in her report. "But perhaps it has made them into something far more interesting, a species that views the impossible as merely a suggestion and deadly conditions as an invitation to adapt. The invitation to the sports festival glowed on her screen, waiting for a response. With a feeling of both dread and curiosity, she pressed accept. The galaxy was about to learn exactly what humans did for fun. She just hoped they were ready for it. The massive stadium in New Geneva hummed with nervous energy as delegates from 30 alien species huddled in their environmental suits. Despite extensive safety briefings, many still flinched at every loud noise. They were about to witness their first human sporting event. Welcome to the first interstellar sports exhibition. The announcer's voice boomed through the stadium. Today, humanity is proud to share our favorite recreational activities with our galactic neighbors. Second speaker clutched her data pad tighter. After her earlier reports on human capabilities, the council had appointed her as chief observer for this event. She still wasn't sure if this was a promotion or a punishment. Our first demonstration will be a classic human sport, marathon running. The alien delegates watched in horror as hundreds of humans lined up at the starting line. The temperature was 30 degrees Celsius, considered dangerously hot by most galactic standards. They're going to run for 42 kilometers, second speaker explained to the council representatives. For fun. All of them will die, one delegate whispered. No, she replied. They'll celebrate at the finish line. Hours later, as sweating humans crossed the finish line smiling and cheering, the aliens sat in stunned silence. Not a single runner had died. Many were already asking when they could run again. Next up, ice hockey. The temperature in the arena dropped to near freezing. Humans strapped blades to their feet and began skating at terrifying speeds across the frozen water, chasing a small disc. They're fighting. A delegate screamed as two players collided. No, third observer corrected, checking his notes. That's called checking. It's part of the game. The real fighting is actually allowed too, within certain rules. The aliens watched as humans deliberately crashed into each other, fell onto the hard ice, and got back up laughing. The puck regularly exceeded speeds that would qualify as weapons fire on some worlds. This is what they consider entertainment, the head counselor asked, all four of her eyes wide with disbelief. The rock climbing demonstration nearly caused a diplomatic incident. Humans scaled sheer cliff faces with minimal equipment, hanging by their fingertips hundreds of meters in the air. The safety ropes are mostly symbolic, second speaker explained to the horrified audience. Many humans do this without any safety equipment at all. They call it free climbing. But it was the wrestling matches that finally broke the aliens' composure. Watching humans deliberately engage in close-quarter combat for sport was too much. Several delegates had to be escorted to calm-down chambers. Let me understand this correctly, the head counselor said during an intermission. Humans regularly engage in activities that would qualify as survival challenges on most worlds, and they do this voluntarily. Yes, second speaker confirmed. And these are their mild sports. They have more extreme versions of each activity. More extreme than climbing cliffs with no safety equipment. Much more. Some climb in frozen conditions or on mountains so high they need oxygen supplies. Others dive into deep oceans or jump from flying vehicles for entertainment. The final event was a simple display of human children playing in a park. They ran, jumped, climbed, fell down, got up, and did it all again. The aliens watched in fascination as tiny humans casually demonstrated physical capabilities that would qualify as military-grade skills on most worlds. I think I understand now, the head counselor said quietly. We feared them because they survived on a Deathworld. But that's not what makes them remarkable. It's that they turned survival into art. They made the impossible into a game. Second speaker added a final note to her report. Human sports aren't just demonstrations of physical prowess. They're a testament to their species' fundamental nature. Where others see danger, humans see challenge. Where we see survival situations, they see opportunities for joy. Perhaps this is why they thrive on their deadly world. They've learned to love the impossible. As the exhibition ended, several brave delegates asked to try some beginner human sports. The humans were delighted to teach them. The galaxy would never be the same. The first diplomatic meeting between humans and the Galactic Council was scheduled for 8:00 a.m. Earth time. Nobody expected it to turn into a galactic incident over breakfast. Tom Roberts, the human diplomatic officer, greeted the alien delegation in the conference room of the Geneva Peace Center. "Would anyone like some coffee before we begin?" he asked, lifting his own steaming mug. The alien delegates' universal translators processed the word coffee. Multiple warning symbols flashed across their environmental suits' displays. First Ambassador's health monitor began screaming alerts. "You're consuming liquid methylxanthine alkaloid, pure caffeine solution." "Well, yeah," Tom said, taking another sip. "Anyone else? We also have tea if you prefer." Second speaker, who had been studying human biology, frantically accessed her datapad. "Delegate Roberts, that substance is classified as a deadly neurotoxin in the galactic database." Tom looked at his mug, then back at the aliens. "Oh, this blend isn't that strong. Though I did make it double shot this morning. Early meeting and all." The room erupted into chaos as the alien delegates processed this information. Their translation devices struggled with the concept of "not that strong" being applied to a known neurotoxin. "Security breach. Security breach," one delegate shouted. "The human is attempting suicide during diplomatic negotiations." Tom watched in bewilderment as emergency protocols were activated. Containment fields snapped into place around his coffee mug. Medical response teams rushed into the room, their scanners whirring. "Everyone please calm down," he said, raising his hands. "It's just coffee. Look, I'll get Jane from the coffee shop downstairs to explain." This made things worse. They have a dedicated poison dispensary in the diplomatic center. First Ambassador gasped. The situation deteriorated further when Jane arrived with a tray of sample drinks and pastries. The aliens watched in horror as she cheerfully explained the different roasts and brewing methods they use to extract maximum caffeine content. "And these are chocolate muffins," she added proudly. "Freshly baked this morning." Chocolate. Second speaker's voice trembled as she consulted her datapad. The substance containing theobromine and caffeine. "You combined 2 neurotoxins in a food item." "Well, yes," Jane replied. "They're really popular with the kids." The phrase "popular with the kids" caused 3 delegates to faint. Their environmental suits automatically activated emergency medical protocols. Tom sighed and contacted the Human Diplomatic Corps for help. Within an hour, a team of human scientists arrived to explain the situation. They brought charts showing human caffeine tolerance, studies on chocolate consumption, and historical data on coffee cultivation. "You see," Dr. Anderson explained to the slowly calming aliens, "humans have evolved alongside these substances. We've developed not just a tolerance, but actually benefit from moderate consumption of these compounds." "Moderate?" First Ambassador asked. "What do you consider moderate?" "Oh, maybe 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day," Dr. Anderson said, sipping from his own mug. "Some people drink more, of course." The aliens stared at the humans in the room, all casually consuming their moderate doses of neurotoxins while reviewing diplomatic documents. "Wait until they hear about energy drinks," Jane whispered to Tom, but not quietly enough. "There are more potent versions." Second speaker asked, her voice rising in pitch. Before anyone could stop her, Jane pulled up a video of a human college student chugging something called a Monster Ultra while studying for exams. 2 more delegates fainted. As the diplomatic team worked to salvage the meeting, second speaker added a new entry to her ongoing report on human capabilities. "Humans don't just survive toxins. They actively seek them out, cultivate them, and have built entire industries around their consumption. They give their children candy bars containing compounds that could kill a fully grown centauran. Most disturbingly, they do this every single day before starting work, claiming they can't function without their daily doses of neurotoxins." The first diplomatic meeting was rescheduled for the afternoon. Without refreshments, the emergency alert blared through the Galactic Council station. A mining colony on Rigel 7, a Class 12 Deathworld, had suffered a catastrophic environmental failure. 300 colonists were trapped with failing life support systems. No rescue team will survive those conditions, First Commander stated, looking at the planet's data. The gravity is twice standard. Temperatures range from -70 to +45 Celsius. The atmosphere is toxic. The humans want to help, second speaker announced, rushing into the emergency chamber. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to stare at her. They say they've already assembled a rescue team. She continued. 20 volunteers. They're requesting permission to launch immediately. Impossible. First Commander protested. Even with environmental suits, no one can survive those conditions long enough to. We're launching in 10 minutes, with or without permission. A human voice cut through the communication system. This is Lieutenant Rose of Earth Emergency Response Team. We've handled worse conditions in training. The Council watched in stunned silence as a human rescue ship streaked toward Rigel 7. Inside, the rescue team was checking their surprisingly minimal protective gear. Remember, folks, Lieutenant Rose addressed her team. Gravity will be heavy but manageable. Temperature swings are within Earth normal ranges. Air's not breathable, but our tanks give us 6 hours each. Standard rescue operation. The aliens monitoring the mission couldn't believe what they were hearing. Standard operation. These conditions would kill most species in minutes. The human ship landed near the mining colony. Camera feeds showed the rescue team stepping out into conditions that the Council had deemed unsurvivable. The humans moved with purpose, barely slowed by the crushing gravity. Team 2, take the east section, Lieutenant Rose commanded. Team 3, west. We've got 300 people to evacuate and 6 hours to do it. Move. The Council observers watched in amazement as the humans began their work. They carried injured colonists on their backs through the harsh environment, made repairs to critical systems with their bare hands when tools failed, and seemed completely unfazed by temperatures that swung wildly as the planet's twin suns rose and set. They're not even wearing full environmental suits, second speaker noted with disbelief. Just breathing apparatus and basic thermal gear. 4 hours into the operation, a massive tremor shook the colony. Part of the structure collapsed, trapping Team 3. Team 3, report. Lieutenant Rose called over the radio. Minor setback, Lieutenant. A calm voice replied. We've got some broken bones and cuts, but we're fine. Johnson's lift capacity is reduced to about 200 kilos in this gravity due to his arm, but we're still operational. The aliens listening to the transmission couldn't process what they were hearing. Broken bones and heavy lifting in double gravity were being discussed as minor inconveniences. 5 hours and 43 minutes after landing, the human rescue team lifted off. All 300 colonists were saved. The humans were tired. Some were injured, but they were smiling. Mission accomplished, Lieutenant Rose reported, requesting medical teams for the colonists at the reception station. Nothing urgent, mostly dehydration and anxiety. My team just needs some water and maybe a snack. Later, during the mission debrief, First Commander asked Lieutenant Rose how humans could treat such extreme conditions so casually. Honestly, she replied, sipping from a steaming cup of coffee that made several aliens flinch. This was pretty straightforward. Nice and cool compared to that reactor rescue we did in the Sahara last summer. And the gravity was better than that cave rescue in Jupiter's moon last month. Second speaker added a new note to her ongoing human study. Today we learned that humans don't just survive in deadly conditions, they excel in them. They've turned their Deathworld adaptations into a gift, using their incredible durability not for conquest, but for saving others. Perhaps this is their true strength. Not that they can survive anywhere, but that they will brave anywhere to help those in need. The Galactic Council immediately began drafting new protocols. Humans weren't a threat to be contained. They were guardians to be called upon when all hope seemed lost. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's greatest hope for survival. 10 years had passed since the discovery of Earth's true classification. The Galactic Council chamber looked very different now. The environmental barriers between species had been removed, and in the center of the room stood a human delegate, wearing no protective gear at all. The reclassification committee has reached its decision, First Observer announced. His hands no longer shook when presenting data about Earth. We must completely rebuild our planetary classification system. The assembled delegates murmured in agreement. The old system had proven useless after humans shattered every assumption it was built on. First, he continued, we propose that Earth become the new standard for measuring planetary habitability. What humans call room temperature will be our baseline for atmospheric conditions. Dr. Reed, the human delegate, tried not to smile. She remembered how terrified aliens had been of Earth's deadly environment just a few years ago. Furthermore, second speaker added, rising from her seat, we recommend creating a new classification for species like humans. They are not simply survivors of a death world. They are something we've never seen before, a guardian species. The evidence was displayed above the council chamber. Images flashed by. Humans rescuing colonists from failing space stations, diving into gas-giant atmospheres to repair mining platforms, running into burning buildings to save strangers, and teaching other species how to survive in harsh conditions. In the past 10 years, second speaker continued, human rescue teams have saved over 50,000 lives in conditions no other species could survive. Their training centers have taught survival techniques to 23 species. They've established emergency response bases on 47 worlds. The display showed more images. Human doctors treating alien patients with advanced healing techniques, learned from Earth's harsh evolution. Human engineers building safer spacecraft using principles developed for their violent planet. And human teachers helping alien children understand the universe through eyes adapted to seeing beauty in extreme conditions. But perhaps most remarkably, First Observer said, they've changed how we view the galaxy. Where we saw dead worlds, they see opportunities. Where we saw barriers, they see challenges to overcome. The next image made several delegates gasp. It showed a group of alien children playing soccer with human kids, all of them wearing minimal protective gear. 10 years ago, the idea of aliens voluntarily participating in human recreational activities would have been unthinkable. We've learned that strength isn't just about surviving, second speaker said. The humans have shown us it's about thriving, about taking harsh conditions and turning them into advantages, about using power not for dominance, but for protection. Dr. Reed stepped forward to address the council. We never thought of ourselves as special, she said. Earth was just home. Its challenges made us who we are. But they also taught us the most important lesson. The stronger you are, the more responsibility you have to help others. The council voted unanimously to adopt the new classification system. Earth was no longer labeled as a death world. Instead, it became known as the Cradle, the planet that had forged humanity into the galaxy's guardians. In the years that followed, a new tradition emerged among alien species. When facing difficult conditions or seemingly impossible challenges, they would ask themselves, what would a human do? The answer usually involved refusing to accept limitations, finding creative solutions, and helping others along the way. Back on Earth, in a classroom in New Delhi, a young human student raised her hand during an interstellar biology lesson. Teacher, she asked, why do the aliens think we're so special? We're just normal people. The teacher smiled, looking at her class of children who could survive conditions that would kill most species, who could heal from injuries that would be fatal to others, who consumed deadly toxins as breakfast beverages. We're not special, she explained. We're just human. And being human means never accepting that something is impossible. It means seeing challenges as opportunities. Most importantly, it means using our strength to protect those who need help. Outside the classroom window, A mixed group of human and alien children played in the rain, while their alien parents watched in amazement from under their environmental shields. Humanity had not just survived their death world. They had turned its lessons into a gift for the entire galaxy.